let us know that we lost our identity. They're right in front of us. Once you start speaking words that you haven't spoken in years, you should be telling yourself, I think I lost my identity. I think I lost my identity. Now, here's the other issue. When we get around other people, we tend to lose our identity, don't we? Y'all with me, right? Yeah, you around that friend you ain't seen in years, right? And y'all having a good old conversation. Next thing you know, he start cussing. Next thing you know, you cussing right along with him. Huh? He start having a drink, you drinking right along with him, right? He start smoking, you smoking right along with him, right? Well, what just happened was you lost your identity. So you have to be careful of who you're around, who you surround yourself with. People take your identity from you every day. You just don't even know it because you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. But let me tell you how not paying attention can have an impact on your life when you lose your ID. God says when you lose your ID, the problem is he can't tell at that particular time whether you're for them or you're for him. How important is it for you to have your identification now? I need God to pay attention to me. I need God to understand who I am. I need God to hear my prayer when it goes up. Amen. But the problem is God says sometimes when you pray, I don't know who's sending the prayer up. You around all these crazy fools, I can't tell you from them. I can't tell if you're the enemy or if you're one of my children. We act like that. Tell the truth, we do. You know we do. Lose your temper, start going off acting crazy. Lord have mercy. Then your kids start looking at you funny. What is wrong with daddy? Why is he cutting up like that? And your mom says, well, I don't know, just leave your daddy alone. Don't just leave him be. Leave him be right now. Don't bother. Don't talk to him. Leave him alone. I remember my dad used to sleep real hard. And my mother, she would always send us in there to wake him up. And we never understood why until we got a little older. We as kids, we were small. You could just go in the room and just jump on, hey, wake up. He was like, oh, it's you, oh. Well, as we got older, got to be a teenager, go wake your dad up. It's time for dinner. I'm not going in there. I'm not going to wake that dragon up. Are you serious? He is going to cut up, Ma. You already know how he is. He trying to get that rest. Why are you sending us in there on that mission? Babe, just go in there and wake your daddy up. Ma, I'm not going. If you don't go, I'm going right now. If you don't go in there and wake him, I'm going. And me and my sister standing there looking at each other. You gonna touch him? I ain't touching him. You gonna touch him? I ain't touching him. You gonna touch him? I ain't touching him. So we go together. You take one toe, I'm gonna take the next toe. So we grab his big toes at the same time and we squeeze real hard. He wake up, oh, what y'all doing in my room? Lost his identity, lost it. As parents, we lose our identity each and every day. Every time we lose peace with our kids, we lose our identity. So it's very important that once you lose your identity, you understand that you lost it, calm down before you talk to your kids, amen? Get your identity back, because when you hollering at them, they don't know who you are. They can't tell who you are because your identity is gone. That ain't my mama. Who this person is screaming and hollering at me? Who that ain't my daddy? Who this person is trying to hang me on this hook and beat the life out of me? That ain't my daddy, man. I don't know who that is. He don't normally act like that. We've lost our identity. So take some time, go pray to God, get some peace, then get your identity back. Once you get your identity back, then you become recognizable, amen? You become recognizable. Let's move forward. Now, there's something that God showed me. It was about an airplane. Now, as a plane takes off, of course, they have to get what's called permission, right? Flight 325, Southwest, approaching the airstrip. Is it okay if we take off? And the people at the tower say, okay, Flight 325, we see who you are. You now have permission to take off, amen? So the flight takes off. And you up in the air, and you're going fine. You get to your destination, and now what the pilot has to do is come into communication with the people that's in the tower, right? So they have to call them and say, hey, man, this is Flight 325 of Southwest. We are approaching Houston Hobby Airport. We're approaching. Do we have permission to land? Here's the deal. If they're approaching the airport says, let me see who you are. Okay, I got you right here, Flight 325 from Southwest, coming into Houston Hobby. We understand that there's a little traffic right now. So what we need you to do is just circle the airport one time for us, and by the time you get back, you'll be able to land. But what the pilot did was he asked for what? Permission before he could land. The issue is, a lot of times, do we ask permission before we can land? No. When you find yourself in a situation where things ain't going right, you got to go back and say, man, did I ask God for permission to do this? And a lot of times you find that you really didn't. Now, here's the key. If a plane is flying in the air and it can't be identified, y'all know what that's called? an unidentified flying object. Y'all understand? It's called a UFO. Sometimes in our lives, we become unidentified flying objects. We flying through life like everything is gravy, like I'm on top of the world. But when you flying through life, sometimes while you're flying through, you lose your identity. And while you're up in flight, because Lord have mercy, I don't want the engines to go out on my plane because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to crash. But as I become unidentifiable, an unidentified flying object, the air traffic controller says, wait a minute, I don't know who you are. You're approaching the United States airspace. Guess what happens when they don't know what that plane is or where it came from, and when it's unidentifiable? What happens is the plane get what? Shot down. Amen. So God says when you pray and you going through things and he can't identify with you, you start praying and your prayer go up. God don't understand who that prayer came from because you a UFO, an unidentified flying object, which turns into an unidentified flying prayer. And as your prayer goes up and God says, I can't identify with that prayer, pow, it gets shot down. So when you realize that, wait a minute, man, God not answering my prayer, but I'm going to church every Sunday, I'm paying my tithes, I'm being a communicator, I'm doing everything that I think I need to be doing. But God says, you know what? It's different when you're doing things for me instead of doing things for yourself. See, the problem is we start doing things for us and stop doing things for him. And when you stop doing things for him, pow, your prayer gets shot down because you became an unidentified flying object. Amen. And as the air traffic controller, what they do is they control the flow of air and everything in it while they're up in the air. So while you're up in the air flying through the atmosphere, you got to understand that God is the air traffic controller. I'm trying to get y'all to understand something right now. And as the air traffic controller controls everything in the air, he controls each and every situation that we go through in our lives. God sees that, you know what, I might not have enough money in my bank account to pay my light bill, but if you're faithful over a few things, he said he will bless you over many. So when you begin to pray into the atmosphere, it goes up to the air traffic controller. Then the air traffic controller says, son or daughter, I have the blessing that you need. I heard your cry. I heard your prayer because I can identify with you. I see who you are, Sister Jeff. I understand that you're going through some things in your life and it might be a little bit rough. But as things are a little bit rough, baby girl, I'm going to send somebody by to see about you each and every day of your life to make sure your lights is on, your water is on. The air traffic controller then sends that blessing back down to earth where you can have a receivership for it that's out of this world. How many of y'all want an out of this world blessing? I want a blessing that's out of this world. I don't want an in-world blessing. I want an out of this world blessing. Because when people see you blessed, you want them to understand that the blessing didn't come from inside the world. The blessing came from up there, amen. It came from up above. It came from my air traffic controller, amen. Stay with me. Now, you coming to church every Sunday, you're praying, you're paying your tithes, everything's going right. You're functioning in actuality. You're saying, Lord, what's going on? Why are my prayers not getting answered? Sometimes, tell the truth, your prayers been answered every time you pray? That's right. You know why? Because you've lost your identity at that particular point and moment in time. So when you realize that every time you pray, something got to be wrong. Wait a minute. God just not going to answer me every single time I pray. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that because that's not how God operates. That's not how he operates. So when you feel or realize that, wait a minute, man, every time I pray, just this ain't going right, man. Something is wrong. You have lost your identity. So God can't identify with you as a Christian. I don't know who you are. He said, depart from me, you who lived in iniquity, for I never knew you. I didn't know you because I couldn't recognize you. I couldn't identify with you because you were so busy trying to identify with everybody else, you forgot about identifying with me. Go ahead. Your blessings don't come from everybody else. They come from me. God says, God doesn't identify with how many cars you have in your driveway. God does not identify with how many people you have around you. God does not identify with how many men or women that you've slept with, since in the world we seem to think that God identifies with all the things that we do and all the people, places, and things that we go, those nouns like I told you before. God does not identify with how much money you have in the bank. It don't matter if you got $5 million in the bank. What matters is what you're doing with it. Amen. God does not identify with how many members you have in your mega churches. Every member in your mega church being blessed, or is it just you? Come on, let's be real about it. God does not identify with those particular things. Here's a good part. When Moses was in the wilderness with the children of Israel, I'm going to tell you real quick, Moses lost his identity. And this is how important it is, once again, not to lose your identity. God had already given Moses the power through the staff over everything that he needed. Moses had already heard the complaints from the children of Israel time in and time out, and he would always go to God first and ask God for permission. Lord, what is it that I need to do? Your children out here complaining, Lord, they hungry, they starving, they thirsty. What you want me to do? God would tell Moses, okay, I need you to go over there to that rock and I need you to speak to it and water's going to come out. So Moses got permission from God first, amen? He got permission from him first to do what he needed to do. So he went to the rock the first time and he spoke to it and water came out. The children of Israel had water. They had manna to eat each and every day. Now, here it goes. A little while longer. How many of y'all know the longer you in something, the harder it gets? The harder it gets. How many of y'all believe that? The longer you in something, the harder it gets, right? Yeah. That's not true. It's not true. The longer you're in something, the easier it should get. You know why? Because you start to get comfortable with what's going on. Oh man, this is easy, man. I got this now. It's no problem. Then what happens? You forget about God because I got this. It's easy. I got it under control. So as the children of Israel began to complain to Moses again, Moses got upset this time. Instead of Moses going to God and asking for permission, Moses went to the rock and struck the rock. And water came out and he cursed himself because God said, since you did that, you're not going to see your promised land. He lost his identity. How important is it for you not to lose yours? Amen. He lost his promise. He was not able to enter into his promised land. And a lot of you are out there today just like that. You're not able to enter into your promised land because you have lost your identity. And God can't bless what he don't know. Amen. He can't bless what he don't see. Amen. He can't bless what don't come to him faithfully. Amen. It's all about your faith. It's all about your faith. Now let's go back to the text. I'm getting ready to close. Now, I'm going to read through this. And Joshua the son of Nun sent out of him Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, go view the land, even Jericho. And they went and came into a harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there. Remember I said, clear your coast. The coast is clear. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, behold, there came men hither, not tonight, children of Israel, to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, bring forth the men that are come out to thee, which are entered into the house, for they come to search out all the country. Remember, I said that God said the coast is clear. Stay with me, church. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them and said, thus there came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were. She said, I don't know where they went. They did come here, but I don't know where they went. Remember, I said, God said, the coast is clear. And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out whither, when the men would not pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way of the Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they which pursued after them, they were gone out, they shut the gate. Remember I said the coast is clear. God is telling you this morning, your coast is clear. And before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof. And this is important. And she said unto them, I want y'all to listen. She said unto the men, I know that the Lord had given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. She's saying right now, and God is trying to tell y'all that they know, the enemy knows who you are. The enemy knows that you are coming into their land to overtake it. The enemy that you facing right now is shaking in terror because they know there's nothing that they can do to stop the God that you use. And that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. Your enemy is deathly afraid of you. What we have to understand is that he is afraid. See, the world will tell you that the enemy is not afraid. And I'm going to give you one real quick thing. How is it possible? And this is how they got us all tricked. This is how they got us tricked. You'll see, Lord forgive me, and I'm not being racist, y'all. I just want you to listen. We'll see a white person walk through a neighborhood just like this, ride a bicycle through a neighborhood just like this with no problem. But us as black people can't walk through our own neighborhoods just like this. We can't ride our bikes through our own neighborhoods just like this because we fear what's going on in our neighborhood. But if you understand what I'm saying is the enemy already fears us. They're waiting for that moment for us to just take over. You understand what I'm saying? We done gave them way to the street corners. We done gave them way to our children. But they trust me and believe that the enemy already knows that we have the power to overtake them. All we have to do is start using the power that God gave us. And he says, for we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when he came out of Egypt, and ye did unto the 2 kings, the Amorites, and were on the other side of the Jordan, and Sihon and Og, whom were utterly destroyed. They were afraid because they already heard what your God had already done for you. Y'all supposed to be excited about that. When God did some things